You know what? I am going to sell this one. I haven't put it up yet. I'm going to sell this one. This is episode 425, Sold Not For Sale podcast. You guys know what's going on. It's Joe Rogan. It's Killer Mike. If you don't know who Killer Mike is, he's a rapper. He's a great rapper. One of those guys that's more focused on lyricism and the art of it, so he doesn't get much mainstream shine, but he's absolutely great. He's a part of a clique called Run the Jewels. If you know about Rick and Morty and you've ever heard Rick and Morty with like a rap soundtrack, it's usually them. So let's just get into this. What's the most revolutionary thing that you could do? What comes to mind when I say that to you? The most revolutionary thing you could do. What comes to my mind, what's always come to my mind is, there's fires in the street. It looks like a scene from the Joker movie that came out. People on top of cars, people flipping cars. They're rushing into government buildings, They're taking over the streets, filling the streets, just people rampaging in the name of justice. That's what I think when I hear revolution. I see countries taking back their sovereignty. I see things like that. I've never thought of what Mike and Joe are about to talk about as revolutionary. But after hearing them talk about this, it really is the most revolutionary thing you can do. Let's get into that. Before I do, I got to take you to IamCoachColin.com. You see at the top here, it says there's a 10% code when you go to the YouTube channel. Well, you're on the YouTube channel, so you get the code, and that code is I am Coach Colin, just like you see on the screen, but it's all one word, one L on the Colin, all capital letters will get you 10% off. You can get the Sold Not For Sale clothing, the Anti-WEF clothing, or the Great Resist clothing. And that's the shirt that you'll see right on the front of the website. Don't join the Great Reset, join the Great Resist instead. And if you've bought anything from this website, thank you so much. You are much, much appreciated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Like the video. It helps us so much. Hit that like button. It's right. You know exactly where it is. Hit that like button. Helps us tremendously. Now let's get into the clip. The most revolutionary thing that society can do right now.
The most important thing to
it is important. And bleed classes. Shouts out to Doc down in Atlanta, former Army guys, a black guy. So there's a guys called the Black Packers in Atlanta. Shouts out to my man Coda and King General down there. They were in a bar, met, talking just about what blacks needed for survival skills, just skills that were kind of being lost with the old South kind of dying out. So they put together a hiking club, gun club, that type stuff. Shouts out to the Bass Reeves Gun Club and NAGA. But they introduced bleeding classes. So before you even learn how to, proficiently shoot, they're like, you need to learn how to stop in case of an accident, which I thought was just brilliant. So part of their learning gun culture is learning how to save yourself in case you accidentally shoot yourself or someone else first.
Jesus.
So you guys look up the Black Packers, and join. People should join, where I'm from, talking to people where I'm from. Join the Bass Reeves Gun Club, join NAGA, get some experience so you don't just let the news tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Get outside, walk around, shoot shit, eat it.
That's very good advice.
Yep.
Yeah, during the pandemic, I think hunting went up radically because people started thinking, like, wait a minute, like, food isn't guaranteed?
No.
Like, I should probably at least know how to do this.
Yeah.
You don't want to figure that out while your family's hungry.
I got a call from DJ Swift, Outkast DJ, Cutmaster Swift, and there's an old man that lives on the corner of the main street that leads his subdivision. Old man has a beautiful garden and shit, and we knew the old man, ate deer and shit, but we didn't know that he was actively dressing animals in his yard. But he called Swift like, I got a deer over here. I don't know if the deer had got hidden or someone had shot and it got in his yard and they just couldn't find it. But Swift is like, man, I'm out here with the old man. We fucking cutting the deer. He's gutting it right here. And I'm like, what the fuck? So shouts out to Swift and the OG, man. It's still going. This is in the city of Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I had this gardener. He was really cool. He was from Mexico, and he was actually the gardener when I bought the house. And I just the guy said, hey, he's a great gardener, and so I hired him too.
Yeah.
And Jose would go back and forth to Mexico. Like he would say, I'd go, when you coming back? He's like, well, I I got to make my way across, so we'll see.
Oh, shit.
It's like, I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but okay.
So does he disappear on you and just pop back up, though?
Sometimes he would. He was a fascinating guy.
Okay.
He would fight chickens, and they had 100 roosters in this dude's backyard, and they had like the whole pit, and they would gamble, and they were doing one of these things, and they cooked a goat. They killed the goat and cooked it.
Yeah.
And the health department came after him because the neighbors are complaining.
Why?
That they butchered an animal on their land, on their yard.
But what are you supposed to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he was so confused. And for him, it was like he was so confused.
Yeah.
He was like, "But I did it all right there. It's all clean.
Yeah.
I know the animal wasn't sick.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to buy meat, but it's not okay to do it in your yard.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense. But
I think it's a visual thing. I think like maybe the neighbors.
They should have closed their fucking curtains.
Yeah.
There's a famous clip of me, I think, on Dr. Boyce Watkins, one of his he has his conferences for black people to get better empowered and stuff. And there was a lawyer who I have respect for. He's done some good stuff, but he was essentially just telling people to kind of push back against the police. And I'm just like, if you're a 15-year-old boy, your mission is to make it home. So you just, even if you get arrested, shut the fuck up till your parents come to get you. But do not push back against cops. That's not the thing to do unless it's time for the revolution for real. Everybody's got the notes. This is the day it goes down. And, people were kind of, because it feels good to kind of hear the rhetoric, but I'm just like, how many of you guys, I live in this neighborhood. I've lived in this neighborhood all my life. How many of you guys actually have a garden? And,
right.
I mean, if you say, how many people fish or hunt or know how to dress and kill your own food? And they got less and less hands. I'll say, y'all ain't ready to revolt. Shit. Like, no disrespect to anybody. A few people got upset, but I'm like, the most revolutionary thing you can do is grow a tomato and some greens.
Become self-sufficient.
Because that way you don't need government or grocery stores or anything. And I'm just like, there's one house in a neighborhood that 2 out of every 5 houses used to have gardens and literally chickens in the back. There's one house in this one neighborhood that I see. This man and woman, they run their yard every day, meaning they get out, run and jog. They have at least 8 goats that I've counted, numerous chickens and shit. And my wife and I drive down that street just to remind ourselves, motherfucker, if it ever goes down, these are the people you want to knock on the door and say, hey, you know what I mean? We like to live and help
join up with you.
You know what I'm saying? In whatever way. Because they're really ready. You know what I mean? They're really ready. So
well, that's what most people should strive for. You should strive for water from a well.
Yeah.
You should strive for some sort of an off-grid electricity system if shit goes down. Like, if you have a generator at your house, if the power goes off, the generator can kick on and turns your fucking house back on.
Yeah, man.
That's a good thing to have.
Very good thing to have.
Yeah,
very good thing to have.
It's a game changer, especially in the summer.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other things. Like, you should learn how to grow food.
Yeah.
You should learn how to cook. You should learn how to make fires.
Yeah.
You should learn how to,
Black
hunt
Packers.
and fish.
Tell you, follow the Black Packers. You guys go to Instagram. They're regular folks that were just regular folks that taught themselves. My sister who grows the garden, Lovey, I never would. She was the wild one. She liked going to the clubs and drinking and shit when she was young. I never thought she'd be the one that ended up like my grandmother. Because my grandmother grew food. But I'm just like, man, these skills, if you got them, you got them. No one can take them from you.
And you know where your food is coming from.
Yeah.
If you're growing all your own vegetables in your gardening, all your chickens that you eat, you know what they ate because you fed it to them. I mean, if you're eating like that, that's way better for you. If you're slaughtering your own cattle, if you make deals with the neighbors, I give you a quarter, you give me some corn, we work out together. Yeah, like that's what people used to do. That's a normal thing.
And there's still things out there like that. Like there's a West Georgia farmers. I know I'm saying it wrong. It's a West Georgia farmers collective. I want to tell people out there, my focus is hyper local. So if I say shit you don't agree with, that's fine. If you're not in Atlanta or Georgia or Alabama or some shit, I don't give a fuck. But there's a West Georgia farmers collaborative where you can essentially get your food and your cows and stuff from them. It can be that local. You don't have to wonder where the chickens and cows and stuff are coming from.
Well, where's
That is the most revolutionary thing you can do. And I know some people are like, oh, come on, but it's true. Imagine a world where you're not depending on the grocery store. See, here's the thing. They already know who knows the scams. They got the NSA. They got people who can look into social media accounts, people who can scour the internet, what you're commenting on the forums, on the this, on the that. They already have all that stuff. But they don't care. They don't care that you know the scams. They don't care that you know the scheme. They don't care that you know about Agenda 2030. They don't care about any of that. So as much as knowledge, and I'm one of these people as well. I have a lot of knowledge. I know about the occult. I know about the symbolism. I know about all the stuff. They don't care if you know all that. But imagine, times it by a million, this one person I'm talking about. Imagine you're not dependent on a grocery store for food. You're not dependent on the police for protection. You're not dependent on the grid for electricity. Imagine that. That's the thing that they're really afraid of. People talk all the time about, oh, this food's poisoning us and Roundup this and they keep spraying all this stuff and the seeds are modified and this and that. That's where it really starts. If you can remove yourself from that, some people, I know a couple guys who make their own toothpaste, but it's like they know exactly where it's coming from. They know it's all natural. They know it works. They don't have to worry. And they seem silly now, but all of a sudden it's like you get hit with another pandemic, you get hit with another type of lockdown, or grocery stores run out of something. What are you going to do? Just by that, they have a very tight leash on you, maybe that you don't even realize. A very tight leash. Because they can just go, well, there's a shortage here and a shortage there, and I don't know, guys, you're going to have to wait. What's everybody going to do? Like the people who can hunt, the people who can fend for themselves, the people who understand, farming, growing vegetables. Like me and my buddy, we experimented with this vertical garden, and it got out of control. Like my buddy did it really well. He knew exactly what he was doing. Grew all sorts of tomatoes, peppers, all sorts of things, I go to my mother-in-law's house. She doesn't go and buy basil. She doesn't have to buy kale or tomatoes. She knows exactly where it's coming from. They grow it every year. Imagine people like that. Imagine a whole community of people like that don't have to depend on the system for anything. That's what they're really afraid of. People breaking away from all of that, I think that's the most revolutionary thing you can do. If you don't like how poisoned the food is nowadays, then remove yourself from that. If you don't like the fact that Monsanto's is doing all sorts of stuff to their crops, remove yourself from that. If you don't like the way that the police operate and how that whole system is and how long it takes an ambulance or a police officer to come into your area and the way they handle things when they get there, remove yourself from that. Imagine that. That's when things get really hard for them, is when you can do all of that stuff yourself. I've always wanted to live like that myself. I've always wanted the chickens. Like I remember when I first started listening to Rogan way back, even before he had chickens. I remember when he started talking about buying chickens, and I was like, wow, he has chickens. Like that'd be amazing. Like imagine you just walk into a chicken coop. You don't need to know where the grocery store is. You walk into your chicken coop, you got eggs. You walk over here, you decide this is the time to slaughter this goat or this cow or whatever, and you got meat for however long. Or even more so, you go into a forest and there's some elk, there's some deer. Boom, you know which ones you need to shoot. You're good about it. You know how to do that whole thing that they were just talking about in the clip. Cut them up, quarter them, gut them. You know exactly where the liver is. This is good stuff. You put that, you keep the kidneys. You keep the nutrient-dense organs. You figure out what to do with all of it. You keep the hide. You start figuring things out. Imagine that. I've always thought of that life as just a simpler way of living, just less stress. I've always thought of it from like a cost-effective place. If you just knew how to do that and you just kept doing it, less stress, cost-effective. But in reality, that is what messes with the system the most. Because look at it. When I go back to talking about the schemes and the they and what they're doing, and They don't care. How many of us know about all of this stuff that's going on? We know that the government does this and that. We know they've planned things. They know they've done things behind closed doors. We know they're currently doing it. We know they're going to continue to do it. They don't care. But if you and your whole community just put up a sign and said, no more grocery store, and we have our own police unit that goes around the neighborhood, and you have a number. Yeah, I grew up in an Orthodox Jewish community. They actually had their own ambulance. They had a couple of guys who were volunteers who, if someone got hurt or someone needed attention, they would call their number instead because they were in the community. They would get there right away. And if they needed to take them to the hospital, they would take them to the hospital. And they would do it faster. And they would have the lights and they'd have the marking on the side of their car. It was like no problem. It was more effective because they didn't want to wait around for what we just have access to for free. They look at their people and their community as being important. So they take those measures. Imagine if everybody did that. You know, sometimes you get ridiculous bills just for an ambulance or a fire truck sometimes, you know, if it's not a just cause. You figure out how to handle your own wounds and cuts and stitches, and next thing you know, you figure out how to do home birth safely. You minus yourself from the system. I'm talking about like homestead type of living. That's what they're really afraid of. Watch how fast they would come down on that. I mean, they've come down on people for just like storing up their rainwater. They've come down on people for all sorts of weird stuff. And you're like, why do you care if some guy's living in the woods? You can't do that. It's because he might attract 1 million people. And then 1 million people are out in the woods. And now those people have their own little thing. And all of a sudden, you know, so the authorities come and they go, you're no authority here. Imagine if that happened. Communities of that. All over the nation. All over the world. Then things start to fall apart. So what they're talking about, growing a tomato, that is the most revolutionary thing you can do. Really cool to think about. And I'll admit, like, I know how to grow a tomato now in a vertical garden, but I don't know how to do it in dirt. I don't know anything about starting fires. I don't know how to change a tire. I don't know how to fix, like there's so many things that I need to learn so I can teach my kids when they're here. But we all should be on track to learn these things. If anything has been the biggest lesson from the whole pandemic, is that the system that we live in right now, we didn't realize how much of a cage it was until it needed to be a cage. It felt like it was just open and free and everything. And who cares who the mayor is, and who cares who that guy is, and local government, whatever. It felt like it's all just open and free. And then all of a sudden, you realize, like, oh, this thing has me. You know, if there's no meat in the grocery store, I remember the pandemic going into the grocery store and there wasn't a lot of meat. And I was like, Jesus. I was like, what if there was none? What would I do right now? Man. Anyway, that is the most revolutionary thing you can do. So work on it. Work on it. Get to where your grandparents and your great-grandparents were. They knew how to grow things. They understood when to grow things. They knew that they had to eat these things at this time of year because they were plentiful, and they knew to dial it back when it got to this time of year, and then they started eating other things. We need to get back to that. If we could get back to that, that's the real revolution. Anyway, like the video. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. It helps so much. You have no idea. Boosts us out of the shadow realm because of conversations like this. And other than that, I am out.